Hi, this is Zibby Owens, and you're listening to Totally Booked with Zibby, formerly Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. In my daily show, I interview today's latest best-selling, buzziest, or underrated authors and story creators whose work I think is worth your time. As a bookstore owner, publisher, author, and obviously podcaster, I get a comprehensive look at everything that's coming out and spend my time curating the best books so you don't have to. Stay in the know, get insider insights, and connect with guests like I do every single day. For more information, go to zibbymedia.com and follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens. Courtney Sheinmel and Marie Benedict are co-authors of The Secrets of Lovelace Academy. Marie Benedict is a lawyer with more than 10 years of experience as a litigator at two of the country's premier law firms. She found her calling unearthing the hidden historical stories of women. Her mission is to excavate from the past the most important, complex, and fascinating women of history and bring them into the light of present day, where readers can finally perceive the breadth of their contributions, as well as the insights they bring to modern-day issues. Marie is the author of many books for adults, including the New York Times bestseller The First Ladies. The Secrets of Lovelace Academy, written with Courtney Sheinmel, is her first book for kids. Courtney Sheinmel is a chocolate lover, mac and cheese expert, mom to Archer, and the author of nearly 30 books for kids and teens, including the acclaimed Stella Bats and My Pet Slime series for young readers. Her book, She Persisted, Helen Keller, was part of Chelsea Clinton's She Persisted series. Courtney received a National Scholastic Educator Award for her work as a writing instructor at the nonprofit Writopia Lab. And by the way, she contributed an essay to my anthology on being Jewish now. Visit her online at CourtneySheinmel.com. Welcome back to Marie Benedict and to Courtney Sheinmel, who have both been parts of other projects that I've featured on the show, from On Being Jewish Now to many of books of Marie's. Anyway, it's so great that the two of you have teamed up. I was so excited when I saw your names together on a book, The Secrets of Lovelace Academy. Welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's a joy. And how did you two team up?
Well, we were set up by our agent, who is a matchmaker of sorts, and she had long been sending me books of Marie's because I loved them. And then she called one day, and I think she spoke to Marie first before she spoke to me. I don't know, but she called me and said, there's someone I want you to meet. I think you guys can do something together. So it was a setup.
It was kind of like a blind date, an author.
It was a great blind date,
It was a really good blind date. Yeah.
Was this a Zoom date, or you went for coffee? What happened?
It was Zoom. I don't remember if it was Zoom or on the phone, but we don't live in the same city.
Yeah.
So it was not in person.
It was a virtual.
Yeah, we started dating virtually first.
Yes.
Okay,
And
all
then
right.
in person. And I mean, Laura, she saw, Laura, I know Laura Zibby, she had in her mind that, obviously she knows both of us, knows our work intimately, maybe all too well. And she saw just the two of us as a great working relationship, but then also the potential for us to do something really fun. And I had been asked many times by readers if I would ever adapt any of my books for younger audiences. And I really struggled with that idea because, I'm not an expert in the world of younger readers like Courtney is, but I knew that younger readers definitely didn't want to read about women in their 30s and 40s, which is generally the age. Not always. Sometimes I have younger heroines, but it's over a period of time. It's not their jam. And Courtney and I just started talking and got into our heads that maybe we would do something with some or one of my women.
We had a lot of bad ideas to start.
A lot of time travel, Zibby.
A lot of time travel, like twins and...
Good. Not very good.
Yeah.
But then I think like Lovelace Academy kind of came out on its own as sort of a, for people who haven't read the book or don't know what it's about. Lovelace Academy is it's the quintessential kind of English boarding school that you think of when you think of like an Eton or any of these classic institutions, but for girls at a time period when girls were completely let out of the educational mix. I mean, formal education really wasn't even really a thing until pretty recently. And for girls, if you were lucky enough to get educated, it was just pretty much about what would service your family, or service, if you were lucky enough to be wealthy, service you as a hostess, and as a, a hostess in a home situation. So I don't know, we just started thinking, what if, right? What if there was a place where bright girls could actually get a real education, something like what young men were starting to get at a place like Eton? Don't you think?
And we knew which heroine that Marie has written about that we wanted to start with, in terms of who wouldn't be the center of our book, but would be somebody that would be in our book. And that was Mileva Einstein, who was Albert Einstein's first wife, who was a brilliant, brilliant scientist on her own, and has been lost to history, although Marie has written extensively about her, so she's not as lost to history as she was. There is an incredible novel, The Other Einstein, that really does celebrate Mileva and tell her story. But, there is a school of thought, a very, deep and credentialed school of thought, that she contributed to her husband's work in really significant ways. And it tracks with what her background was and her education level and how brilliant she was. And she was a mathematician, and she never got any credit, as women often still don't, but specifically didn't in her time. So we knew we wanted her to be in our story. We weren't sure who our main character was for a while, but we knew that she would be meeting up with Mileva.
I feel like I'm in my Einstein era, because I have your book, of course, and then I was reading a couple weeks ago, my son started reading Stuart Gibbs's Charlie Thorne books. Have you ever read any of those and The Last Equation, which starts on Einstein's deathbed and how he puts his equations in the fire? It's for middle grade. You guys should read it. You should actually do an event with Stuart Gibbs.
Yeah. I know Stu well because we shared a babysitter. His nanny for his kids moved to New York and was my son's first nanny. So
small world.
It's a very small world. But I have a 5-year-old, so we haven't quite gotten to Stu's books yet, but I actually have a few on the shelf waiting for him.
This is past the other ones. This is past the Spice. It was a little bit older. They're longer. Anyway, I don't mean to go off on it, but anyway.
No, I love this book. I have 2 boys, and we have spent quite a lot of time for sure.
I feel like Sarah Mlynowski introduced me to him and to Laura, your agent, which is how I feel like this all comes together. Anyway.
Well, Sarah who's one of my closest friends, introduced me to my agent as well.
Yeah.
Talk about matchmaking here. I mean, that's a crazy full circle there.
Maybe I shouldn't even admit this, but I sent my original proposal for Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, the book, to Laura, and she turned me down and was not my agent.
Come on, she did not.
She did. I did. Yeah. I think now she feels bad a little bit.
Probably.
No, I'm kidding.
Regret that one.
I mean, I think
we love you, Laura.
We have a wonderful relationship. I shouldn't say she feels bad. She doesn't feel bad. I just mean
she probably does.
We're now friends. She's been so supportive in so many other ways. And to her credit, the book was not a good idea at that time anyway. So, but she was very helpful in the beginning. So I have a lot of gratitude to her.
To me, that would be regret if I were Laura Dale. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
No. Anyway, so back to the book. So Milena is making a cameo. That's all you knew at the beginning.
That's right.
Yeah. And you should be in it in some capacity. Yes.
And then
I think in the beginning, we thought she would be a larger part. Then as we realized, the audience we were writing for, and as Marie was saying before, not wanting to center a story for middle grade readers on someone in her 30s, even though I frankly think women in their 30s, 40s, 50s are the most interesting people there are. You don't necessarily realize that when you're 10 years old.
No.
So
not interesting.
10-year-olds just want to read about 12-year-olds.
Right. So
the next stage.
Yeah. And the other thing, we felt like we knew that Mileva came to the table with a lot of struggle, and we knew that whoever our main character was needed to have a story of her own that would make you root for her, but was different from the struggles. So we were working on what that story could be, and how this girl, who we named Lainey, why she would be at Lovelace Academy, and which is a school for very privileged people, and how she ended up there and what her journey was.
I mean, it was an interesting way to take a look at middle school age girls in a different time period so that younger readers could see in some ways how far we've come, not in all ways, and then give them an opportunity to intersect with a historical woman that really did pull herself up by her bootstraps and do incredible things, but whose stories we don't know. And to leave the door open for other Lovelace Academy girls who come down the pike to intersect with the stories of other historical women and kind of explore the evolution of girls' education, bright young girls who are trying to achieve in different time periods, but time periods that are definitely not encouraging of that, and struggling with things that girls today are still struggling with. I mean, very relatable things.
One of the things that we hope readers take from it too is the idea of looking at a story like this that's set in 1905 and how far we've come, and also how far we have not come.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that in the story that are not just about, middle school politics, but about the world at large and where women fit in the world and girls fit in the world at large that have not changed to the extent that we believe they should.
Right.
So as part of the mission of the series, this sounds like it's going to be a series now, which is brilliant, of course. Is part of the mission empowering today's girls to continue sort of fighting for change and being amazing.
Yeah, I mean, not to be like super heavy-handed or preachy about it, but certainly we hope that is what you take away from it after you read it, that there's more work to be done. And the work continues with all of us. And one of the things that I think was interesting for us in terms of coming to the story was when we started out and we had in the time travel era of thinking about this book, and we're both mothers of sons, and we were like, oh, it'll be a boy and a girl, and they go back in their time machine and help Mileva Einstein. And it took us a moment to realize we didn't need a boy main character for this story to reach our sons and other boys, and to be an important story and an appealing story to our boys and other boys. And I think that was like a big, to borrow a phrase from Oprah, aha moment for us, when we're like, oh, wait, they can read about Lainey and just Lainey and Mileva, and it's still a valuable story, right, even if they're boys. And so that was like part of our journey as well, and seeing how we need to like sort of change the world and also change our approach to story.
You learn so much about yourself as you're crafting these worlds and your own preconceptions about what is an appealing story, what should be an appealing story, how to reach people. But yeah, as Courtney said, it's not meant to be heavy-handed. It's a historical adventure is really what it is, that has some of these layers in it, but that hopefully there are some takeaways. And I think, we know, I'm not saying we're all the same age because I'm older than you ladies, but, we grew up in an era when things were changing. And I think a lot of younger kids today are that much more removed from that. And I think getting to look at the past through the lens of somebody who's more closer in age to them, to actually see the scope of those changes is really important because, we live in a time when things could return to where they were. And it's important for us to understand from whence we came so we don't head back that direction.
So true. Oh my gosh. So how did you two write this together? I have never written with anyone else, and I am endlessly fascinated with how this process works. How did you do it? How did you make sure you had the same voice? And how did you do it?
Well, nothing was precious.
Not to Courtney on that. Thank you very much. Because she's the
I've done it before. So this was not my first co-writing rodeo. But I feel like if you're co-writing, one of the most important things is like you can't be too in love with any of your own sentences, that if your co-writer writes over them or, gets rid of them completely, you can't it can't be the thing that you're too attached to. But we would write and pass back and forth. And so it became not my voice and not Marie's voice, but a voice that was like almost a third person who was in the room with us. And therefore it could be uniform throughout the book. And we didn't really take anything personally, or at least, didn't tell each other if we were taking anything personally.
You can reveal it now.
Yeah, I really got upset when you changed that. But I think that's like sort of the deal you make when you get into it as a co-author, that you're okay with someone changing your work, because it's not your work, it's your work together. So it's a different animal entirely.
I think too, knowing that you start out with the same goals, the same desire to tell the best story that you can, to honor the historical women and the characters you're creating, you have to surrender your ego. Like Courtney said, like you can't be too much in love with any part of it. But, knowing how that Courtney had the same exact goals as me, that, we really wanted to create a world that could really inspire and engage readers and very, very much love the same themes. It gives you that sense of, I'm not in love with my sentence because you probably know what a better sentence is, right? Or it's not just, as Courtney said, just my work or your work, it's our work together. But I will say, Courtney is the master here. I mean, this is not my time period. These are not my, not my time period. These are not.
No.
This is my time period.
Is an encyclopedia. If you want to know anything about anything in history or any person or what they were wearing in, I don't know, Switzerland in 1804, she will tell you, like she knows everything.
It is a problem. I mean, I do harbor a lot of arcane facts in my head, and it was so fun to be able to pull them out and be like, oh, you want to know how they would go to the bathroom? Absolutely. I know how that happens.
Yeah. I was just like, I would write like a part of a chapter and then leave these like blank spaces and like in parentheses, write like, fill in whatever makes sense here. And then it would come back with just like, first of all of my sentences would be vastly improved, but then come back with details that I could have spent a month researching and I never would have gotten that kind of detail and authenticity. So I highly recommend, if you're doing historical fiction, to write a book with Marie Benedict, because there's kind of no other way to do it.
You are too kind. Thank you. And it's wonderful to employ all that arcane knowledge in a variety of ways. I mean, it is funny, but you file away in there,
I know. I feel like I have like some crazy memory now for book covers or book characters or whatever, but then ask me about something totally that I should remember, either historically or my own life, and it's gone. It's like, why? I ran out of room for all these other things. Like I pushed it out. The files are overstuffed.
You do have to do pruning from time to time. I do think, bathroom habits of the 18 and 1900s might be something that I could prune. I feel like it's
now you put them to use, so it's fine. It's fine.
They're done.
So which historical characters are you toying with including in future books?
We haven't said yet.
We haven't said, I don't know if we're allowed to say. Could we say scientists?
Okay, scientists.
I mean, I think
I'd leave it at that if you want.
You can, if you looked at Marie's catalog adult work,
we would get some clues.
Some supreme hints.
Okay.
When you think about Lovelace Academy and the kinds of girls that go there, the sorts of brilliance they have, and how their world might intersect with another, because there's a secret in Lovelace Academy, because it's not just a school. It's also a place where adult women who have a variety of accomplishments are being fostered and supported and encouraged. So we could leave it at that, maybe.
Yeah, that's good.
There's lots of opportunities, though, for the Lovelace girls to intersect and bound out into the world.
So for parents who are, have kids who are interested, or this age range or whatever, who is the right type of reader for this book? Like, what should they know when they're like, this book versus the other ones? And I don't know, are kids reading fantasy? Like, what should I get them? Or graphic novels? Like, it can feel overwhelming. So what's the sweet spot for the book?
Well, it's not a graphic novel and it's not a fantasy, but it is an adventure story. I think it's a really ambitious, big story about a young girl's journey to figuring out where she comes from and where she's going and her place in the world, coming from tragedy and writing her own story and understanding where you come from doesn't define who you are. So I think that, and that also you can, and that you can make your mark, and making your mark on the world and being there for other people in a lot of ways is how we define ourselves. We are not islands. We are, we're a species that is very community oriented. I think we are when we are at our best. And so I would say, the reader for this book, if all you want to do is read, if you're a reader who loves graphic novels, this is probably not your story. But if you're someone who's interested in story and finding yourself in books, this, I hope you pick this one up.
That's beautiful.
I love how you put that, Courtney. Oh my gosh,
That's good.
That up. It's also, like she said, an adventure, and not just an interior adventure. It's actually like a real adventure.
Oh, there's planes. Well, there's not planes. There's trains, there's ships, there's horse-drawn carriages.
There's all sorts of calamities along the way, and there's a lot of characters. It's not, as Courtney said, nothing happens in isolation. We are all part of a community, and one action kind of ripples out into all sorts of ways you might not anticipate. And Lainey not only journeys physically across Europe in circumstances that are really quite dangerous for a young girl at that time, but she's also journeying in terms of who she's meeting, who she's encountering, and then taking all of that and undergoing this internal journey and I think the time period is part of the adventure, for the reader to take them someplace, much like you do in a fantasy novel. You're going someplace you've never been. The history is a little bit like that. I mean, it is someplace you've never been for sure, and it is different, but it is also funny and engaging. It's not heavy-handed in the slightest, and it was just a joy to write. And Courtney is so joyful to write with. I mean, and I think that really comes through on the page.
Amazing. Well, I'm so excited that the two of you teamed up and put this into the world, and that you are some of the people most inspirational to today's rising women. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I could think of nobody better. So there you go. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for all your work and entertainment and inspiration.
Thank you so much
for having us, and thanks for being you, Zibby. We really appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Okay.
Have a great day, guys.
Take care. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Good to see you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Totally Booked with Zibby, formerly Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. If you loved the show, tell a friend, leave a review, follow me on Instagram @ZibbyOwens, and spread the word. Thanks so much. Oh, and buy the books.